Hello and welcome to Growing Tech Fast, the condensed podcast in which we discuss growing tech startups with those who have grown them. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Kristin Grant, CEO of Westcott Multimedia. Westcott offer an automated advertising platform that automatically launches campaigns for catalog music based on organic events, from artists' birthdays to viral TikTok videos. Kristin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, super happy to be here.
Great. Well, we've got a bit to get through, so we'll get started straight away. Really interested to hear about you and your journey. So can you tell me a bit about your path, I guess, to becoming CEO at Westcott?
Yeah, absolutely. So my evolution to starting the company was really a series of experiences over the past 10 years that have kind of been culminating to a North Star, you could say. So I did a master's in music and business about 10 years ago at NYU, and did a master's thesis on empowering independent content owners through actionable insights with a focus on digital distribution in Jamaica. And so I ended up, during that thesis, releasing a Grammy-nominated record for a reggae artist named Barrington Levy, ran the marketing, digital distribution, and PR, and realized during that time that I did not have access to the information I needed about who was consuming the product in order to make informed marketing decisions. So my whole focus in the music space, and now more broad into streamed media, is how do you get access to the information you need from streaming to make informed marketing decisions, and then what's the best way to take action on that information. And so I spent some time at a company called Next Big Sound that ended up, it was one of the first social analytics platforms that got acquired by Pandora. Mm-hmm. So that was my first introduction into utilizing data in a really powerful way to make decisions. And then wrote for Billboard's streaming Twitter charts. So there was algorithms built to combine similar links, whether it's a SoundCloud link or a Spotify link of the same song. And so you could see in real time what songs people were tweeting about in the US, what people were talking about. So that was also my first glance into real-time feedback, mm-hmm. Into what people were listening to, and how that could be matched alongside trends or just patterns in the market at large, what people are talking about, what people care about. Worked as an entertainment analyst at an investment firm, and then managed global playlist strategies for Universal Music Group. So I was kind of in the belly of the beast, and realized that across every label at large, the volume of information that they were pulling in every day was too high for an individual person to manually identify all of the large or small momentary spikes that happen across any piece of media that is now streamed online. And that could be because of a viral TikTok video, the fact that it's Christmas, an artist's birthday, an artist's passing, the announcement of a tour, or a sync placement on Netflix. So when I started Westcott, it's essentially started as a series of roster analysis reports where I pulled in, they were kind of like financial audits of a label's roster. So I'd pull in revenue data, stream data, and expense data, and I reorganized it from album project to artist. And by doing so, I got a completely different view of financial performance. So an album that saw profit, the artist saw a loss because the label overspent. Mm-hmm. I also saw that when labels were spending ad dollars, it wasn't necessarily aligned with when people were listening online. So I made a modest model, what would be the impact on revenue if we spent when people were paying attention. And I saw about a 25% increase across all revenue streams. So all of the labels that purchased the roster analysis paid us to build the prototype. Fast forward, we got into Techstars about a year and a half ago. Launched the final product end of last year, and now we're really off to the races.
Wow, love that. So you obviously had this great idea, and you saw a gap and something needed to be done. But at what point did you realize that you were actually going to do something yourself about it and go down that route?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think that it was always I think from the very beginning, it was a passion of mine. And I always leaned towards entrepreneurship and building something new. And I always knew that you could create something amazing out of problems. And so during my master's thesis, the conclusion is there is a problem and I don't know the answer. These are a couple ways that glimpse into what could be the result. And then when I first started the company, I didn't realize that it was going to turn into an automated advertising platform. And so I'd say there were probably a few moments, a few conversations, a few people I met during the process of creating the company where, I really had an aha moment of like, oh, wow, like this is a thing. This is real. People really do believe in this. Got a lot of consistent, big and small positive reinforcement across the entire process of creating the product. It was constant customer feedback, constant positive reinforcement in big and little ways. The last thing I'll say about it is for the longest time, I said that the company was roots. No one else could see it. And then when it became a sprout, when it became a sprout, that was when other people, that's when it really started picking up, was when other people could see it. We built the prototype. It was visible. It wasn't just talk. There was a physical thing that people could ingest. So
yeah. Well,
that's the whole process.
That's inspiring because all of us every day go, oh, I've got a great idea about this, that, and, sometimes it's a very valid idea, but how often do we execute on something and go down that path? Great. Okay. So in terms of what you just told me about how you guys are helping people, has that evolved to the present day? And if so, how is it different? What are you doing right now to help your clients and customers?
Yeah, sure. So I'll quickly just touch on what it is to really describe it,
please.
and then go into how it's helping people. Mm-hmm. So essentially, what the product is it's we take the speed and precision of high frequency trading and we apply it to ad buying in the streaming media market. Mm-hmm. So when a label or an investment firm that purchases catalog or a publisher, eventually a creator or a podcast owner, a podcast publisher, anyone who owns content can be our customer. Owned stream content can be our customer. When they come online, we pull in their streaming data feeds. That's granular streaming information where the high level demographic information is alongside that individual stream transaction. So we pull in that information and we can identify spikes in the market. When we identify a spike, we'll identify who's the most engaged audience. And then we will send them a hyper-targeted ad within 24 hours of that spike. Mm-hmm. This system will also automatically generate ad assets across every single artist in a label's roster. So if a label comes on, they have 30,000 artists, they log onto the platform. All they need to do is turn the artist's toggle on, or say filter for catalog music that was released 18 months ago from today's date, and turn the toggle on, and then just go into the platform. If they want to review the automatically generated ad assets created, they can do that. And then they just they come in the platform 2 times a week and track results from our ads. So the ways that we help is usually a label can have a 10-person team managing at least 1,000 songs. And so what our automated functionality is doing, it is monitoring all of those songs for moments of increased awareness. When it automatically creates an ad asset and places that ad asset on right now Facebook and Instagram, we drive streams. We also drive followers, which has a long-term impact on the baseline return, as well as playlist placements and chart placements. And so we find that our ads, because we're because we're reacting when people are paying attention in that moment, it has echo impacts. So we can drive an ad towards streams and downloads will go up. We can drive an ad towards tickets and merch sales will go up. And so those are the ancillary benefits. So those are the tangible destinations that we can drive to. And then I think one thing that we do is we build momentum. Because we see a spike, whether it's a spike of 5,000 transactions or 5,000 people or 100 people, it depends on whether or not it's a developing artist or a large artist with a new developing audience. It's those little spikes that when you water them, they grow. And we've seen certain situations where, for example, one of our artists, Mac DeMarco, we saw a massive spike in streaming from an offshoot catalog track from an older male audience. We spent $74 and saw 500,000 impressions and drove a 47% increase on streams, continuing 3 months after that ad. Wow. And so we're looking at driving long-term engagement over time versus a short-term focus when we're launching that ad.
Fascinating. And are there other people doing similar things right now, Kristin?
So agencies or marketing companies, the biggest difference between those companies and Westcott is that right now they do rely on their customer to tell them what artists to market against and when to launch the campaign and the total budget that they want to spend in that campaign. While Westcott will have already spun up a campaign for an artist before the label even realizes they needed to have launched a campaign for that artist in the first place. And so that is where we stand apart from anyone else in the streamed media space at the moment.
Great, okay. And then in terms of the tech that you're using, when we first met, we talked around like the machine learning piece. So is there some stuff there that is allowing you to create such great results for your customers in terms of, like measurements and all the rest of it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the entire platform is 100% automated, and it's also based off of models that detect the best time to spend, the duration of the campaign, dynamically decide the duration of the campaign. We just launched a optimization to our spike identification. So now, we're able to predict what the decay curve is going to be after a spike, and then integrate a confidence threshold. And so if it's above our confidence threshold, that's when we launch a campaign. And so there's a number of different ways that we can build models to identify all of these decisions. And then when it comes to dynamically creating and inserting ad copy and images, a lot of machine learning comes into play there, where we can look at the historical information of who we targeted and what they paid attention to historically, as well as in real time. So if we launch multiple images for a particular campaign, we can reallocate budget and reallocate attention to the campaigns or image assets and ad copy that's doing the best.
Amazing. And you touched on it when we started talking, when we talked about your journey and about putting sort of power back into content owners' hands. So sort of moving on to that seems to be part of what you're doing. So tell us about how that is empowering people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the mission of Westcott is to use ads to create connection by exposing them to art, to music that they can relate to, that they can see themselves in. Because music is a shared experience. It is a shared language, whether that's the music itself or the lyrics that people can connect to. And so by creating a way of exposing people and artists to audiences that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise be exposed to because they don't know that they exist or they don't know that they're connecting in that moment, this is a way to do that. So fundamentally, we want to create connection through art. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest challenges is the data gap. So it's the lack of information about a consumer that a content owner gets from a DSP like Spotify or Apple when their content is streamed online. And the lack of that information makes it really hard for them to run their business. And so that is really something that we're looking to fix, is we're looking to make it very easy to access that data on their behalf and then put 100 marketers in that creator's pocket. We are starting with larger enterprises right now because it's easier to get access to that information. But what we are all working towards is being able to access that data on behalf of an individual content owner, and then be able to provide the platform on a phone and make it really accessible. So they could be at dinner and get a text message notification saying your artist saw a spike from males 25 to 34 in Hockenheim, Germany. Westcott spent $128. Projected outcome is Y. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very seamless way to integrate with marketing.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And for someone like me who doesn't know too much about these content owners and artists and how difficult it can be to take ownership and manage their own sort of business and content, like what difference is that going to make in real terms to these people to have the power to do that on the sort of more independent outfits and artists?
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to specifically the information that they have access to right now, what they don't, and what they need in order to make actionable decisions versus seeing insightful information. So, in Spotify, out of all the DSPs, has done a really fantastic job of creating platforms like Spotify for artists. The one challenge with that information and applying it for a platform like ours is that the daily stream count, if you were to export the CSV, not to get in the nitty gritty of it, but it'll show the day and then the total number of streams that happened in that day. And then it'll have two charts that says their top, audiences by geographics, and then this is your top audience by demographics. And so it's separated. What I think a content owner needs access to, and they need access to it in a way that they need to be able to provide it to a third party to take advantage of that information to provide the service back to the creator, is individual transactions where it's this stream happened in Toronto, Ontario, females 18 to 24. That's the type of granularity needed. And when moving into the podcast market, I think that there are efforts to start making available, Spotify for podcasters or Apple Music for podcasters. But this is kind of the conversation that we're looking to start and make people aware of, is what is the actual granularity of the information that you need, and then what's the frequency at which you need it. Within the music space, because we went from selling CDs to digital, when the expectation of when we expected to receive our statements is still relatively low. It can be on a monthly basis. It can be, in some cases, every 3 months. And so that level of visibility and cadence of awareness into where and how much your product is being consumed, that impacts ability to market. Mm-hmm. And so granularity and availability of frequency of information are the aspects that a content owner should be aware of, whether or not you own a podcast, you own a game that's streamed online, a television show, a movie, or a piece of music. It's all applicable.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, makes sense. Giving these guys more access to that deeper more granular insight. Okay.
Yeah, these are great. These are great questions, by the way.
Good. Well, thanks. I think you probably helped me with some of them. So thank you. Cool. And in terms of Westcott, where are you guys going in terms of the next few years? What is the plan, the journey that you're going to be going on?
Yeah, so definitely from a product and industry standpoint, just expanding. So optimizing all of our models to make more and more effective and informed decisions. From a product standpoint, really growing into the number of destinations that we can drive campaigns to, the number of platforms that we can make those deliver those ads to, as well as the number of signals that we are ingesting into the system to identify cultural moments where people are paying attention globally or within local markets, as well as going into various industries where media is consumed online, looking at podcasts, film, television, games, is all a big exciting focus for us moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Fantastic. No, it does sound very exciting. It was interesting to hear you talk about like the other applications of your tool. So we started off talking about music and artist streaming and all the rest of it, record labels, but actually you talk about gaming, you talk about podcasting and all the rest, and it's easier now than ever for individuals to create their own content, right? In whatever. So yeah, sounds like you're in the right place to grow going forwards. Cool. So I always end this podcast with a question around like how you see the recruitment market right now as a leader. Obviously, my role day to day is headhunting sales and other revenue generating positions for startups and all the rest. So I'm aware of some of the challenges, but from your own perspective, are there any insights that you can give around that, or anything that you're doing differently or seeing success with to attract talent, basically?
I would say one thing that we're lucky with is that a lot of phenomenal engineers are also musicians. And so there is kind of innate connection to what we're doing and our mission that aligns with a lot of engineers. So it's a lucky thing that some great engineers as well as great musicians are drawn to what we're building. I think that overall the hiring market is tough, just in general. But I don't know if we do anything like fundamentally different, but for us, the big focus is on personality, cultural fit. We do approach hiring that the skills can always evolve. It's more about looking for people with a growth mindset that have shared goals and are passionate about what we're doing is some of the most important things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's interesting that you talked about the shared passion there. It's definitely something that I see when there's a business that has a bit of a unique offering, whatever it may be, that could be in line with somebody's passion, whether it be something to do with, I don't know, social responsibility, music, something like that, then it does give you guys an edge because people's personal passions often align with that. So yeah, that makes sense.
And I think as well, I'm sure with everyone, a big focus for us is making more diverse hires, even from the get-go, and really creating a diverse culture where we can set examples for what's possible for everyone, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, interesting also that you mentioned about hiring for growth mindset and all the rest of it. I think that people see a lot of success when they look at things from a longer term perspective, and not does this person have 11 out of the 10 skills that I need right now at this minute. There's some interesting strategies that I'm hearing about in terms of longer term more sustainable sort of talent development programs, even within smaller companies, things that you maybe usually see within, I don't know, larger enterprises. So yeah, people are adapting. Cool. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you again for joining us, Kristin. It's been great chatting to you. And yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jacob.
No.
Have a good one.